as they warm them up on the backstretch, Chevrolet has already clinched the manufacturer's championship. They lead the field today with 18 entries, 13 Fords and 5 Dodges, rounding out to 36. So for Chevrolet, they've nailed one of the objectives of this 1997 season. But that manufacturer's title is secondary right now to the interest in the points battle, which is very intense indeed. Here's the way the day will shape up, Benny.
250 laps today. The race record is a little over 65 miles per hour, held by Joe Ruttman. There'll be a 5 to 10 minute break at lap 125 for the mechanics to change tires and do whatever mechanical they can on the trucks in that limited time. And the race is for over $300,000 in purse today.
Ernie Irvan, David Green, among those who will do double duty this weekend. We'll go on board with Boris Said during the course of the afternoon for the on-truck coverage. Great shots that will feature Keselowski, the Richmond winner. Boy, that was a heartwarming victory for Bob and Ron, the two brothers who field that truck. Richard Petty literally owns this road. Jimmy Hensley on board with Bobby Hamilton, the other driver in the field. There's Hornaday's view out the back. Get set for the commercial break. We'll come back and drop the green on the Haynes 250.
We're back at the Martinsville Speedway, and folks, look at the little racetrack here. Long straightaways up to 125, 30 miles per hour, and Kyle, basically a U-turn going back the other direction.
Tightest corners in Winston Cup racing. I don't care if it's a road course in New York or Sears Point. These are the tightest places and the toughest place on brakes that we run.
50 years ago, it was dirt when Red Byron won the first race here. Now we celebrate the anniversary with the fall of the green flag, and we're underway.
So good as we look at the back of Ron Hornaday's truck, looking back at Joe Ruttman.
Hornaday made a good move early, quickly got down to the bottom of the racetrack, got in line, now moves up, having made one pass to put the pressure on Mike Bliss. That's the view out the back of Bliss's Ford. Meanwhile, up front, Ernie Irvan got the drop on the pole sitter, Rich Bickle. Bickle, who has not led a race, not led a lap since Milwaukee 9 races ago. Didn't get one, but lead one here today, even though he started from the pole. There's your lead battle.
All right, Johnny Benson, the 18, and Jamie Skinner. That's Skinner in the red, 93 on the outside, 19 years old.
Jamie's doing a really good job. He got hung on the, he started on the inside and he got hung on the outside at the very beginning, and they've just, as you can see, this is not the place to be at the beginning of the race. He's dropped like a rock.
Marty.
I talked to Jamie right before the race. I said, what did your dad, Mike, tell you? He said, be patient, be calm, be steady. He's already got damage on the inside. I also asked him, I said, who's more nervous, you or Dad? He says, oh, the old man by a long shot.
How about that ESPN crew picking up the shot of Dad there as he watches the 19-year-old kid at work. Meanwhile, we watch the battle for the lead.
And you think Mike Skinner was spotting? No, he said, I can't stand it. I'm too nervous to spot. He's got someone else spotting his son.
I tell you what, my son Adam and Jamie race against each other down at Caraway. When they drop the green flag on those races, Mike and I get up in the truck, lock the door, and tell them we come out when it's over with.
Racing dads typically more nervous than their kids when they get out there on the racetrack. Well, Bickle sure wants to lead another lap. He's looked inside, he's looked outside on Irvan, but has not found a way to make a move. The two of them have pulled away to a healthy advantage over the third-place Ford of Mike Bliss, who has his hands full with Hornaday.
And look at the 17. He's looking on the inside, but Ernie drives her down in the corner. Rich Bickle can't get by.
Ernie struggled a little bit in Cup qualifying, couldn't get it inside the top 25, came back to qualify in the second round today. And he's obviously having a lot better success here in the truck. Kyle, I'm interested about the issue of patience. Can you afford on a racetrack like Martinsville to be patient and take your time, or do you have to hurry if you're one of these guys further back in the pack?
If you're one of these guys further back, you can't be patient. You've got to get up and get going. If you can see, as you see when you see an overview of the racetrack, a lot of these guys are already 3/4 of a lap behind. When you're in Bickle's position, you can be very patient. Ernie's driving off down in the corner and almost parking in the center of the corner. 17 trucks a faster truck. If he could get in front, he would stretch it out a little bit. He's going to be a little bit patient and wait for Ernie to wear his tires out. And and then he can use it. But if you're back 15th or 16th, you're driving your heart out right now.
And we see Kelly Denton, 35 truck. Looks like he tried to get to the outside, and he's losing spots. 4 or 5 trucks were able to get by. That's him, the yellow truck, the 35 on the outside.
In front of him, you saw Randy Tolsma in the 61, the yellow truck, picking up a position, but it was a position he had lost earlier. He's back where he started in 20th. There you see the gap from the lead duo back to third, and look how quickly those first 2 drivers are reeling in the tail end of that field. That looks like Crawford in the back who had to take the provision over there.
That's Philip Morris.
Yeah, good call, because he missed the drivers' meeting. They were pretty unhappy, too. There's Crawford in the 14.
And he's on the inside of Mike Wallace. That's Mike in the 52 car, the Pure Later truck. And Billy Pouch in the 06, the dirt track ace from up in New England.
That's all for 29th position on the racetrack.
And Boris Said is losing power and smoking badly. We're right along with Boris Said, and we see, looks like an engine problem with the 44 truck.
Boris didn't qualify well at all, which surprised me a little bit because this is a bit like a road course, the long straightaway and then the hard braking down into the corner. But doesn't matter where you qualify when the motor blows up in the first dozen laps or so, and that appears to be what has happened for Boris Said, the veteran of a variety of different forms of road race competition. He'll be the first retiree from the Haynes 250 for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. We'll be right back.
Well, we're back at Martinsville, and you can see the hood is up. The smoke is pouring out here. In fact, we had a momentary fire. It is an oil fire. One of the lines that looks like has broken free, and they're trying to see through all the smoke to see if they can make the correction, get it fixed, getting back out.
So perhaps it was not the blown engine that triggered that excitement for Boris Said. An oil line apparently rupturing and causing the problem. Get a look at number 86, Stacy Compton there, running for Cintas Rookie of the Year. And there was Sprague in the middle of a pretty exciting
he's got a crap right in front of points leader.
Sprague got caught in the right front.
That's Michael Waltrip in the 1 truck, and Sprague has some damage, and the caution flag is out.
Jack Sprague dodged 1 bullet, couldn't miss the second one. It didn't look like his contact was terribly significant, but we'll wait to make the call on that. This is Tony Raines, who also looped the Dodge, the winner in I-70, the first man to win in a Dodge in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Part of the first caution here at lap 18. So that is frustration for him and a near miss for Sprague.
There we see the damage to the left rear of the truck on Michael Waltrip's Citgo truck. Here we see the 1 going by Joe Ruttman. That's Ruttman on the outside. And there we talked about Sprague almost making contact. And Sprague goes down the corner and just drives on the inside of the 1. And bam, hits him in the left rear, and then also hits him in the left front.
Well, he got him pretty good, but in that replay, it was obvious that he got him sideways to start all that. So, and it seemed to start when Sprague was trying to get around Ruttman. The truck slipped on him. And when he made the hard drive into the corner, he got into Waltrip. Good view from the top, and Raines an innocent victim as he went around trying to miss it all.
From another
That's
view,
how it started.
Coming off turn 2, there we see Sprague almost losing control as he accelerates. And going in the corner, he tries to drive on the inside of Michael, and boom. That's what I said, folks. I promised you we'd be fighting for the same real estate going in the corner.
That's what happens at Martinsville. Little paperclip corners. Back to Marty on the 24 truck.
Well, I checked with Dennis Conner. He says he's talked to his driver, Jack Sprague, and they're not going to bring him in. They say the damage is not severe enough. He's not reporting any problems with turning the car. And he says he's seeing no smoke from his angle. We'll have to keep an eye on it, though, at speed. Remember, that load is going to shift more to that right side. We're going to have a lot more action for you. We're under yellow at Martinsville. Stay with us. This is just getting good.
Say what you will about racing at Martinsville. I'm impressed that they got 19 laps into the thing before the first 2 trucks collided. We had 70 laps of yellow here last year. Still the series record. We go back to green with Ernie Irvin out front.
And now we see the 24, Jack Sprague, the points leader. Looked like he had a fender in on top of the tire, but
I didn't see any smoke coming off too, Benny. Did you see any?
I didn't see any. And I don't see any smoke billowing out now, so maybe it is okay. I was a little concerned about that, wasn't you, Kyle?
I was very concerned. If you look at the truck from the back, it looks like the whole front end's been shifted over to the driver's side, though. See how the left front fender is really bowed out. And I think that's where he got into Michael. He just knocked it back up in there, and that may have been a saving grace. Was the second time he hit Michael.
Sprague has been the most consistent driver in the series, thus the point lead. 19 top 10 finishes. I'm sorry, 17 top 10 finishes and running at the end of 19 of the 20 races thus far. That's how you get to the lead in NASCAR championship competition. This is the battle for third. This is Mike Bliss continuing to try to hold off Ron Hornaday, who got a great start, picked up a couple of positions early, started putting the pressure on Bliss, but has not been able to make the pass. The two of them doing a little better job right now and hanging on to the two leaders up front.
I talked to Ron Hornaday yesterday. The concern that he had was that Mike Bliss was pulling him off the corner. And we can see how Bliss just drives away about a car length off that corner. He told me yesterday that was his concern.
But for your favorite drivers, we back through the field. David Green having a good run, only his second appearance in the truck this season. Pirelli sitting in the 7th spot. Waltrip, of course, already involved in that early incident, logging in at 15th. The 19-year-old Skinner in 12th doing a great job. Joe Ruttman in 19th spot. What's up with that? He started a lot better. Marty, what's going on there?
Yeah, I can update you on several. Joe Ruttman's got a problem. He is missing. They think they may have a spark plug wire that has come loose. They're trying to hang on. Maybe they'll bring him in under the next yellow unless the misfire clears up. Also, the update on the 44. Morris said had the valve cover that got a leak there. They probably blew the gasket. That's what they're looking at right now. And also, the radio traffic between the one truck. Michael Waltrip, he's worried about those right side tires, and they're trying to make a decision on whether or not to bring him in.
We saw Ruttman going backward. He has now found Jay Sauter, who started 33rd on a provisional, but has moved up to 26th position. So Sauter's going the right direction. Ruttman going the wrong way. Your first four stable for the moment. Bickle seems to content to follow the leader, Ernie Irvin. Ernie drove the race at Richmond, but not for very long. Knocked out very early by Mechanical.
Truck in line, you see the 37. That is David Green, and there we see the 14 truck that Crawford goes. Oh, we got some contact, and Mike Waltrip saved it somehow, some way.
I thought he was going around.
So did I.
And a little nudge there, but Mike Wallace managed to keep things under control, and Kenny Schrader breathes a sigh of relief. He says, well, I don't have to buy any sheet metal yet.
That was a 3 truck of Jay Sauter, black 3, that made contact with Mike Wallace.
Getting Sauter another position.
Kyle, this happened to you much?
You hope it never happens right here going into the corner, because going into the corner, you're braking, you're concentrating on what's going on, and all of a sudden you feel that little bit of a tap. Mike does a tremendous job of saving that thing, because up here where he's at, there's already rubber build up there. You're out of control when you get up that high.
Okay, now is Wallace mad at Sauter at this point, or is that the proverbial just racing? I'll ask the two of you who have done this for a lot of years.
Is he mad? Yeah, he's mad. At this point in time, he's run a couple laps now. He's probably cooled off a little bit because Jay's got away from him a little bit. But that's, and it is the proverbial that's racing too, because, you know, like I said before, if you start at the back, you're not patient. You're trying to get up through there. We saw just a minute ago how quick the leaders can catch the tail end of the lap of the traffic, and that's what Jay's trying to do, is get up in there and be able to race.
Let's document that Boris said returned to the racetrack for a lap, and there, as you saw, is back on pit road.
There's Wayne Grubb in the 4 truck, and that's Andy Houston, the 65, on the outside. And well, they got a dead heat there. Those trucks are really, really close.
And you've raced here a million times, Benny. You know, these guys are racing side by side and losing a second a lap. You know what I mean? The leaders are catching up to them from the backside. And these two guys are very young drivers. And, you know, at some point in time, they'll learn that they're losing as much time there as the game.
That's Brad Teague in the 04. And Crawford tries to go, Rick Crawford tries to go by on the outside. That's Chuck Bound in 99.
Now we'll get another teammate next year. As you probably heard on RPM tonight, Greg Biffle will join the truck ranks in a Jack Roush entry. And Roush is going to be up somewhere in the neighborhood of a dozen teams next year. That is an impressive operation. And he was very candid about the reason for doing that. He said, hey, I got sponsors that want to be on vehicles, so let's go racing.
Jay Sauter going by Michael Waltrip. Brian Refner, 66, trying to follow. Oh, some contact between Michael and Refner.
Michael's going to get all the fenders beat off that thing before this day is over. Refner was able to get by, and Sauter continues to march. He's up to 23rd. Refner did a nice job of taking advantage there. He didn't let Michael get back down in line, and when Michael tried, boom. There's that side-by-side battle continuing further back. And a loss of position there. Looks like losing the spot. David Green.
Losing several spots.
Boy, he is backing up in a hurry. Sprague shot by on the inside.
Look at Butch Miller, the 20 truck, back in the 18th, 19th spot, had the second fastest time that time by. That is the speeds at the line, and we'll check it again. Rick Torelli that time had the third, and we'll go back to, once again, Butch Miller.
And probably as much as anywhere we go, traffic is going to have a lot to do with that here at Martinsville. Right now, Butch Miller has the racetrack all to himself. Kenny Irwin Jr. is in front of him by about 3 or 4 truck lengths, but he's got plenty of room to operate, and you see the benefits on the stopwatch. There he is.
And that time, the first 3 trucks had the fastest speeds.
Butch Miller, by the way, was second in this race last year. That team has really struggled this year. They got off to a great start. They looked like they were going to be really solid, but they slipped a little about race 3, and they haven't been able to gather it back up. So Butch Miller currently running in, 14th spot and hoping to go forward. David Green, meanwhile, continues to go backward. An apparent problem with the red man truck. Marty, what's up?
Kyle, you remember earlier you said brakes, remember? Well, that's exactly the problem with David Green. He's called in. He says, guys, pedal is getting real soft.
That didn't take long. We're just 42 laps into 200 here. You got to make those brakes last a lot longer than that.
Look at that rotor. Look at the flame come off that where the rotor touches the brake pad up in the very right corner.
I'm going to tell you something, Benny. If I knew my brakes looked like that, I'd come in.
Look at the fire come off that.
That's incredible.
Kyle, trust me, yours looks like that.
I know they do. That's the sad part. I got to go back out there later.
Well, here's the thing. They're going to look like that 1,000 times tomorrow because it's every corner. You got going into 1 and going into 3 for 500 laps. Man.
This is Jimmy Hensley's rotor on the 43 Cummins Dodge.
Wow. Hot action here as the trucks go racing at Martinsville. We'll take a break and be right back. That brand new grandstand at Martinsville will be full tomorrow as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of this racetrack, and we're going to kick it off at 11 o'clock tomorrow with a 50th anniversary special. Clay Earls, the owner of this place, and a lot of guests from over the entire history of this track. It should be a very, very enjoyable preview for the Winston Cup activity that follows. So we hope you'll tune in for the entire day. Now that's the leader that you're watching, and you're watching him out the back of the truck that won the last time at Richmond, Virginia.
And we got a spin right in front of him. Oh, it looks like they're going to get by.
Brad Teague loops it. Did everybody make it?
Bickle made it. He passed for the lead.
Rich Bickle said, and Ernie just got into the back of him as the 2 Winston Cup guys get at it here. Bickle, of course, looking toward Winston Cup next year, and Ernie in the middle of those ranks in 1997, and they whacked pretty good as Bickle got by, seizing the opportunity in traffic.
So now Bickle will try to go by on the outside of Keselowski. That 05 truck is John Blewett. And Rich Bickle will go by Keselowski, the winner, as Dave said, in Richmond just a couple of weeks ago.
Bickle's going to drive away from Ernie, it looks like, while Bliss comes up and says, well, Bickle can get around Ernie. I ought to be able to. Let's take another look at this.
It's Mike Wallace in the 52. He makes contact and cuts the left rear tire down on the 04. Around goes Brad Teague. Nails the gas, does a great job, but Ernie had to back off because of the truck spinning there. When he did that, Rich Bickle was just far enough behind him. He never cracked the throttle.
Right place, right time pays off for Rich Bickle. He leads for the first time in 10 races. The man who's in the middle of the battle for the championship. There you saw Teague's team affecting repairs and getting him back out there. Here's Sprague in 9th spot after his early near miss. And there's Michael Waltrip alongside. He just touched him. He just reminded him of what happened before, but didn't push the issue.
Bobby Hamilton in the 51 truck.
Sprague's truck doesn't look like it's behaving the way he would like here, and this certainly has not been a a typical weekend for him, qualifying in 8th.
And that distinctive odor is setting in at Martinsville Speedway. Someone's gearing, rear gearing, is getting very, very warm. When that rear fluid gets hot and starts smelling, it's awful.
And there's nothing worse than smelling it because you don't have a gauge on it in your car. So you don't know if it's you or the guy you're following or somebody that's way up in front, and you hold your breath until it goes away for a few laps.
There's Butch Miller in that 20 truck, the Orleans Casino truck, and he is moving forward. He's up to 12th spot. And when we gave you speed to the line just a few minutes ago, he was always one of the fastest trucks out there.
Walker Evans, the owner of that truck, as we go back and pick up a second and third place battle. Bliss got to the tailgate of Ernie Irvin's truck, but has not been able to force the issue. Have settled in now for third for the moment.
Rick Corelli has moved into the 5th spot, and there is the battle for 6th. Stacy Compton in 86, Jimmy Hensley in 43, and the 19 truck of Johnny Benson. 18, I'm sorry. There's 18, yes.
Boy, they like Stacy Compton in this neck of the woods. He comes from Hurt, Virginia. Came here last year, qualified very well for the Winston Cup race. Whenever a Virginia driver goes out on the racetrack here, big cheers from the Martinsville faithful.
Stacy came up here last year and embarrassed all of us. We made qualifying look hard, and he made it look easy.
Michael Waltrip's taking the steering wheel off, and that's usually a sign that he's finished for the day. Ronnie Silver, the fellow there, Michael's crew chief.
And you saw some of his Winston Cup crew over there helping out the Wood brothers from, what, 30 miles down the road. And Hornaday is showing smoke out there on the racetrack as well.
I think we discovered whose rear gear is burning up. It's the 16.
You know, I'm out of my league. We're up here in this air-conditioned booth 200 yards from the racetrack, and Parsons can smell Hornaday's rear gear. I got no hope in this business.
And the fellas in the truck told me they smelled it. They're even farther away than we are.
Oh, you had help with that. Oh, I don't think so. Well, it may be funny for us. It is no joke for Ron Hornaday because a gear problem here is big trouble. The champion of the series goes on pit road. He's had such an amazing charge back into contention this year. The crashes, the injuries, falling deep into the point standings, and now battling back and having trouble today.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we don't have a fire under there. Well, no, that looks like that's, yeah. It looks almost like bar set steel, doesn't it, Kyle?
Yeah, it really does.
Oh, the gear is burning in the back. We can see under the back of the truck. There is a fire. Look under the back, guys.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Go get him.
I couldn't believe Parsons could have got that wrong. I just knew that couldn't be the case.
I think when he slammed on brakes, all the smoke just went to the front. They just happened to open that.
Well, there you go.
And the bad part about this is, and as Benny knows, if you try to change the gear, there's still pieces of this burn-up gear in there. You've got to pretty much change the whole rear end housing and everything. So they may get out for the second half of the race, but they're probably done here for the first half.
See the guy with the stop board over there fanning his face? That smells so bad. But I'll tell you, a lot worse than the smell is the disappointment that this team feels. That was such an amazing charge. 6 wins in 8 races. There was no hope for them in the championship. And then all of a sudden, here they come like Jack the Bear. They're into third. They come to Martinsville and fall victim to a typical culprit on this racetrack. Take a look at the numbers here. First 10 races of the year, a couple of wins. Last 10,
Wow.
5 victories.
Wow.
Just came to life, and Fred Graves, the new crew chief, had a lot to do with that. Let's go to Marty.
Yeah, very unhappy. Ron Hornaday, smoke coming out of everywhere. Is it a motor or is it gear?
Well, I hope it's the gear, but oil pressure, everything's good. At first, we had something vibrating on the left front. We got smoke inside the cab. Just last couple laps, then I started pushing it and trying to catch back up. Something happened. We got oil pressure, everything, but I don't know.
Well, while we're talking, John Blewett and Billy Powell got into a spin out there. Are you going to try and make hay and get back into this thing, try and score some points?
I like to see what it is right now. The motor's got oil pressure. I don't know, the Napa Chevrolet was any good. I just bided my time. The thing was rolling through the corner great and everything, but started pushing a little too hard, I guess. I don't know if the rear end gear, motor, whatever. I don't know.
Guys, the 16th at the last stop, and now this really hurts the points championship.
Blewett and Pouch. I wonder if those two have shared a racetrack over the years up in the Northeast. John Blewett, the modified driver, and yeah, it looks like Pouch got into the back of him as Billy spun her going in.
Got into the back of him with his side, though. It almost looked like he got in the corner so hot and lost his brakes and got up on the grass and just slid into the back of him.
I think that's the key, Kyle. I don't think any brakes getting in the corner. Watch as Jim Hensley watches this. He says, okay, what do I do now? Okay, I'll go under him. I think you're exactly right. I don't think he had any brakes getting in the corner.
And he did what comes natural to a sprint car driver. He went for the dirt. He figured, I'll get her down there, get her sideways, stand on the gas, and I'll save this baby. But it didn't work out that way. Blewett got the worst of it. We'll take a commercial break as we are back under caution here at Martinsville Speedway in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. We'll be right back. Hello, folks. You having fun today? We're back to green at Martinsville.
Chris Morgan waving the flag frantically, and oh, we got them 3 abreast in the corners. 12 car, that's truck, Ernie Cope. They still got them 3 abreast. See,
we heard a couple of times this week, cautions breed cautions. Well, we just missed the opportunity. It still isn't over as they go side by side down into turn 1. They go that direction without Michael Waltrip. He's trackside with Marty.
Yeah, I'm down here with Michael. Michael, first off, what put you out? And then I noticed you went over to the 24 truck pit and had a conversation with Dennis Conner. What happened there?
Well, when Jack ran into me, he hit me in the left rear. I don't know if it did something to the housing or what, but something started knocking in the gear right after that. And then somebody hit it in the left front and missed the steering up. Had a doggone good truck, and I mean, it was running good. I don't know. I have no idea what happened there, why he ran over me, but I just went to Dennis and told him, you know, that we got together and I didn't think that was right, but I knew they had a race to run. Maybe we could talk about it afterwards.
Is this going to be a polite conversation, or should I not ask?
It'll be okay.
That pregnant pause, guys, you can tell Michael's really not happy.
Well, Johnny Benson and Rick Crawford may not have had great trucks, but they sure had better trucks 20 seconds ago than they do now. We'll see what happened. Benson got turned around, and then Crawford just drilled him.
this is going to happen in front of the 24 truck. There we see Benson. The 19 slow off the corner. It's like he's got a flat tire. All these trucks trying to dodge him. Kelly Denton does a great job right there, but Crawford doesn't see him because he was behind the 35 truck, didn't see him, and had no place to. What a terrible feeling.
Man. Boom. Benson sitting there like a sitting duck, and I'll tell you what, when that 35 truck moved over, Crawford's view of the world sure changed dramatically.
Yeah, when you stay here and you look at it, you think, oh man, he had all the time in the world to dodge this thing. But I'm telling you, in real time, you have no time. There was nothing he could do. When the car turned left or the truck turned left out of his way, there sits somebody in front of him, and he just runs all over the back of Benson.
Watch this. I mean, he can't see. We're talking about the two blue trucks. And watch this blue. Oh my gosh, he says.
He was all over the brakes when he saw it. But,
yeah.
And if you're the spotter, how do you explain that there's a truck stopped a third of the way down the straightaway on the outside next to the wall in, what, a quarter of a second?
Yeah, I don't really
Not in
know
that
how you
short
do that.
Yeah, not in that short a period of time. You don't.
Missing from all this is the explanation of exactly how and why Benson ended up in that situation. The picture from the Pennzoil copter cam high overhead. Now you see why we call this place a paper-clip racetrack, and of course that translates into all the issues we always talk about at Martinsville, notably brakes. Let's go to Marty.
Yeah, well, these guys in Rick Crawford's pit aren't doctors, but they're playing one on TV because they're doing surgery on the 14 truck. Remember, he is second in the points in the Cintas Rookie of the Year, and you can see the radiator is smashed, the whole front assembly is smashed. They have got, oh, now we got 18 on fire out in track. So, guys, I'll stay here. You bring us up to date on what's happening out there.
Well, we got a fire. That's about all we can tell right now. And they're trying to get the trucks out of the way so we can get an ambulance or a fire truck over there.
I tell you, a lot of times what catches on fire here, and you know it, and it happens during short track races all over. You run so many brake ducts onto the brake rotor itself that when the brake rotor finally comes in contact because of a wreck or something, the rubber around those hoses just flames up. It's not made for that, and it just burns off the car. And it's not a serious fire, but anytime you see a flame, it looks serious no matter what.
Benson is long gone, of course. He cleared the truck.
Wow.
There's the impact. Look at the 14 showing a fair bit of what I presume is what, oil?
Oil or gasoline. He's broken an oil or gas line, and when that gets on the exhaust system, it's catching on fire.
Big hit for Crawford and a big blow in terms of the Cintas Rookie of the Year championship standings. We'll talk about that when we come back. Back at Martinsville, getting set to go back to green. If you just joined us, yes, Joe Ruttman is a lap down, 4th ranked in the series.
Green.
Inside lane of cars as Chris Morgan puts the green in the air, and leader Rich Bickle takes him to turn 1. Be interesting to see now if Ruttman can hang on to these lead trucks. He was reporting a miss in the engine early on that has dropped him a full lap behind. Here comes the 3rd place Bliss around the outside on Ruttman. Let's get more on Joe's situation from Marty Reed.
Yeah, guys, it's one of those frustrating deals. They had the misfire, then they were waiting for the yellow. When the yellow came out, the misfire was cleared by that time. So they really don't know what the full problem was, but they're glad it's cleared up.
Well, that's the story on Ruttman. It's been a tough day for the front runners in the championship. Again, if you just joined us, Ron Hornaday has burned up the rear gear in the number 16 truck and is retired. And Jack Sprague has been involved in a couple of on-track incidents. The green truck just at the left-hand side of your screen there is dented a bit. He currently runs in the 7th spot after qualifying 8th, the championship point leader. So Rich Bickle, with the lead on the racetrack, has the opportunity here to advance in the points. But for Hornaday and Ruttman, Martinsville definitely not kind to their championship hopes here today. The numbers in the top left of your screen reflecting that. Johnny Benson, of course, brought out this most recent yellow involved in the incident over there with Rick Crawford. The truck hitting the wall, and Marty's caught up with him trackside.
Johnny, what put you out?
I'm not sure. Something just broke, and I'm not sure. Maybe it kind of tired down. I'm not positive. Just took off on me, hit the wall. But tell you what, that Dana Dodge is running pretty good. Kurt Rourke has always done a tremendous job getting a great truck for me to run, and kind of hope we're going to win this deal for him today. But we're in good shape. We're about 5th place truck right at the moment. But I think after the halfway, Dana Dodge is going to be pretty good. Kind of hate it for everybody around.
Are we going to see you in any of the other races remaining in this truck?
I'm not sure. I've got a lot going on with the Pennzoil Pontiac, and you know, we're trying to finish top 10 in points, and had good second round qualifying today, which wish we would have did it yesterday. Would have got us an 8th. But weekend's been a struggle, but hopefully everything's going good. And I'd say Dana Dodge was running great. Just a little misfortune.
And the nice part, guys, is he's got another chance tomorrow.
Kurt Rourke had picked up Haynes sponsorship on the 2 Dana Dodges for this race only. Haynes, of course, a local company. Kurt took the money from that sponsorship and gave it to the families of those North Carolina police officers who were killed in the line of duty this week. Here is Jack Sprague in action, 7th position as he works on Jimmy Hensley in 6th, and works on it pretty hard right now. And there you see the damage on the left front of Sprague's truck. For more on Hornaday's situation, let's go right back down to Marty.
Well, the easy part is now putting the new rear end gear back into the 16 truck. The hard part, as you can see, the smoke and the oil that is boiling in this pan is taking the old one out. These guys literally have earned their money today, guys. And bad news for Ron Hornaday as the laps continue to go by, the points just keep fleeting as fast.
Pretty familiar scene here at Martinsville. Brakes always a problem, rear end's a problem, and slapping the wall can be an occasional difficulty. Am I right about that, Mr. Petty? Although you said you may have done yourself a favor by crashing that one. Tell me about your qualifying for tomorrow's big race.
Yeah, we were terrible yesterday. Could never get the brakes, and brakes always are a factor here. And even in practice, we couldn't get our brakes working. And finally, I got them working good enough that they locked up this morning. I backed in the wall down here where it says Martinsville. Took out the TIN on it, I think, because they had to repaint it before this race. So we rolled off the backup. We're in the show, and that's the main thing right now.
Yeah, the backup car was pretty good. What, you qualified 29th today?
29th. I was 34th yesterday and picked up 3 or 4 tenths, so I can't complain at all about it.
It's all coming off a great run at Dover last week for the guy who joins us in the booth here for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, which thus far has been a Bickle Fest. He took advantage of Ernie Irvin in traffic early on and has led since then. And Sprague continues his assault here on the Dodge of Hensley without a whole lot of progress.
You know, Jimmy probably gets around this racetrack better than 15 any drivers you want to pick out there. And you can watch him Sprague gains on him getting in the corner. Jimmy gets off the brakes, lets it roll through the center, gets it pointed in the right direction, and just accelerates up off the corner. And it's not that he's got a lot more power. It's just that he's keeping the RPMs built up. He's got equal power, and he's able to use all of it.
And right in front of them, Stacy Compton is doing a nice job in 5th as he continues his quest to. Ooh, Jimmy got into the back of Compton just a little bit there. Compton is 3rd in the Cintas rookie points, and we promised to talk about that a little bit. Rick Crawford, with that crash at the last yellow flag, went into this race just 10 points behind the rookie leader, Kenny Irwin Jr., but Crawford has crashed out. So in all categories, it's been a tough day for point leaders.
Ron Hornaday back on the track with a new rear gear, trying to get as many laps as he can, hopefully to pick up another spot or two, because he plays the same points as the NASCAR Winston Cup. 3 points per position. Rich Bickle is in 2nd place in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. But you see, he's 95 points behind going in. We saw a graphic just a moment ago that if the race were to end, he would be only 61 back. And with 5 races to go, or whatever there is, 61 points is not too big of a mountain to climb.
Big turnaround for Bickle. They anticipate, or they hope for, at this race this weekend. He, of course, crashed the Winston Cup car very hard at the Brickyard, was all beat up, then had the emergency appendectomy. He said yesterday the last half dozen races have been terrible. The next half dozen are going to be great. And he still considers himself very much a championship contender. There's the 98 of Kenny Irwin Jr. And he's got company from an old friend. That's Randy Tolsma in the pineapple truck behind him, the new Dole deal. I don't know where that tire came from, but typically those are not allowed to roll around on the racetrack.
Looks like Billy Pouch. And the tire, I thought we'd see a rim on it, but actually the tire came off the rim.
This after contact with the wall, apparently, for Pouch. And yes, we do have another look. Clunk.
Oh, there he is. And that's what knocks the tire off, where it eventually is going to come off. And I saw those trucks stopping and wonder what they were stopping for. It was to dodge a tire.
Billy got a little wide on the exit there. It's been a tough introduction to the truck racing world. Richard Childress told us a year ago when he was talking about truck racers that Billy Pouch is exactly the kind of guy that he would put in a truck and then move on perhaps to an eventual Winston Cup career. He said, man, that guy can drive race cars. But today, Pouch has trouble. We'll take a break and be back with more. From high overhead, Martinsville Speedway in the beautiful hills of Virginia, the Pennzoil Copter Cam shows us the NASCAR Craftsman trucks circulating under yellow here. This because of the most recent incident on the racetrack and the Pennzoil Copter Cam. I love this shot. I love looking at this racetrack from high overhead because it just gives you such a visual picture of all the difficulties that you deal with when you come here to Martinsville. Ron Hornaday, the most recent victim of those with a burn-up rear end, is now back out on the track and keeping right after it, too. Yow! That was Pouch hitting the wall right in front of Hornaday. Peeled off the right front, put us under yellow. Now that yellow is
ready.
And we see why Pouch hit the wall. The right front tire went flat as he came off the corner.
Green.
So Billy was an innocent victim in that one, and now we're back underway with Bickle still out front, 109 in and closing in on the mid-race break, which a lot of these guys need. Rutman.
And the leader's left turn.
Bickle almost gets turned around. Woo.
That was 0-4. Brad Teague getting in the left rear of the 17 and almost turned him around.
I'm not sure that was all Brad Teague. I think Bickle was trying to keep him pinned down on the corner, and they just got together.
Bickle saw Rutman get his lap back and said, I don't need another guy to deal with later in the race. I'm going to try to keep you back there. And it just about cost him big time. So a few scratches and scrapes on the side of the Series diehard number 17. The only consequence of that for Bickle. And Teague falls in behind Mike Bliss, who currently runs in 3rd spot.
B.A. Wilson is taking his car to the back pits. Let's show you what happens between there. You say, yeah, you're Steve. Bickle is really keeping him down on that curve, isn't he, Kyle?
Yeah, he's keeping him down, and then he cuts right back across him right here. And that's where they seem to just get together. And Bickle does a great job, and so does Teague. He turns him loose and lets him go, and that's a racing incident right there. That's racing.
So they both continue to truck. Here's another look at it. Rutman got the great start. That intermittent misfire wasn't present at that moment. There is the shove-it match between Bickle and Teague.
Yeah, you're right, Kyle. There just wasn't room for the 0-4 car down there between the curb and the 17 truck.
And Hornaday, many laps down, continues to scramble for every point he can get out of this deal. He came in here trailing by 159 to the series leader, Jack Sprague. He's lost a lot of laps to that rear end gear. Haven't talked much lately about Ernie Irvan, who continues to dog Bickle, but has not made any attempted pass in the last, what's it been, 75 laps or so, I guess, since Bickle slipped through in the traffic to take that lead.
I think this is Ernie's in a position, and he's run enough races up here and won races up here in Winston Cup cars that he can afford to be patient. We're almost to the halfway point. There's no need for him to abuse his equipment. He'll wait and abuse it the last 50 or 60 laps of this race.
You made an observation earlier when we were watching Jimmy Hensley's brakes about the fact that the rotors continue to glow all the way around the racetrack. On the Cup cars, you see it in the corner and then they seem to cool off. What's the difference?
The difference is these guys are going to run 125 laps and then they're going to take a break for 5 or 10 minutes. Everything has an opportunity to cool back down. In a Winston Cup race, once you start in a 500 lap race, you've got to give it an opportunity to cool itself back down during that 4 or 5 hours. We don't have a break in the middle of it, so our stuff's not going to come back. So these guys can run a little bit harder and abuse their brakes and abuse their tires a little bit harder because they know they're going to get at least one break during the course of the race when it will cool back off.
We talk about guys being easy on the brakes. Is that just a matter of the obvious? You just have to let off earlier, or is there some magic you can do when you tap dance on that pedal?
No, and Benny can tell you, being hard on the brakes doesn't necessarily mean running to the corner and jamming on brakes. You'll find a guy that lets off real early, but he drags the brake. He's putting more heat in it because he's on the pedal for a longer period of time than maybe the guy that just jams it and jumps off of it real quick. So there's 40 different drivers, 40 different styles. And, the one advantage that we do have now over a few years ago is brake technology has advanced so far with the carbon fiber stuff and with what Ray Bestos has and what Brembo has and companies like that it's just incredible. So you can be a little bit harder on them.
Well, we've been abusing the brakes and the rest of these vehicles for 117 laps here so far. 125 is halfway, and somewhere around halfway they'll take that 5-minute break. So we'll slip in a quick commercial and be right back. We're back at Richmond, and this is Bickle trying to put Ruttman back a lap down, and what a battle. As we approach the midway point, Bickle on the outside, Ruttman on the inside. A couple incidents of contact and another opportunity for it right here. Yeah, Bickle leaves him a couple of feet. Says, I just about tore up this truck 10 laps ago. I'm not going to take another chance. But he gets by.
And we can see it looked like the windshield in Joe Ruttman's truck is almost, the visibility almost obscure.
And all this happening in the wake of a spectacular Bob Keselowski blow-up during the commercial break. Something went up big time. Lots and lots of smoke from the most recent winner on the tour. And Keselowski is on pit road.
And Mike Wallace is also on pit road, the Pure Leader truck. That's Keselowski. And somewhere back there is Mike Wallace. There's Mike Wallace right directly in front of him.
Feast or famine for Keselowski. Very emotional victory lane celebration at Richmond just 2 weeks ago, and now today trouble. First and third in the points. Ron Hornaday goes blowing by Jack Sprague. Sprague says, I'll let you go. You're way off the pace here. 35 laps down.
Sprague's been able to get by Jimmy Hensley in the Cummins truck. He's now moved into the 6th spot as he tries to chase down Stacy Compton. And Stacy in the red, white, and blue truck number 86.
Troy Selberg, the crew chief on the 86. Butch Mott involved in putting that team together. Butch, a Winston Cup owner. And now we have reached halfway. 125 laps down, 125 to go. At NASCAR's discretion, they will throw the flag sometime within the next few laps. And they'll obviously wait a few to see if there's a caution that would put us under yellow anyway. So far that has not happened. And Ernie Irvan shows some first half life here as he moves to within a couple of feet of Bickle. Bickle caught up there with Pouch. He's back out on the racetrack.
Oh, some contact.
Here he comes.
And the yellow flag is out, and Bickle barely beats Ernie back. And Mike Bliss will be in 3rd, Rick Pirelli in 4th, and Stacy Compton in 5th.
Did Ernie know that was coming, or did he just figure, well, yeah, it's got to be this lap or next lap. I'll get up there and give him a nudge. Who knows? I might get by.
Now, these trucks would normally go straight to the pits right now, but Bickle, I don't think, realizes that the caution flag is out. They finally told him. But anyway, NASCAR is going to let these trucks ride around the racetrack slow for one lap to try to cool those brakes off. And you see, just half lap, Jimmy Hensley's rotor already is cooled off.
Well, we're going to chill out here for a minute and a half or so and come back and turn Marty Reed loose to run up and down pit road like a wild man. Stay tuned. It'll be fun. I don't fly much. What is this, 800, 1,000 feet maybe over Martinsville Speedway? The Pennzoil Copter Cam looks down on that jam-packed infield area with the Winston Cup bivouac ready for happy hour, which will follow on ESPN2. And then, of course, the NASCAR Craftsman trucks. And if you look very, very, very closely, the only guy down there with an ESPN fire suit is Marty Reed, and he's got his running shoes on.
All right, let's start it off with our race leader, Rich Bickle. Gave me thumbs up, says everything's fine. In fact, the crew is only going to make a track bar adjustment. He said he was a little bit tight, but other than that, he is a very happy race leader. Let's move back one pit. Ernie Irvin, they put a rubber in the right rear. In fact, you can see the guys just finishing up the work. They're checking everything, make sure it's okay. Other than that, Ernie also is a happy camper. Now, I'm going to make my way on down towards where we'll run into Stacy Compton. Now, these guys are making no major changes to this, and I'm going to see if I can poke my head in here and get a word with Stacy as we get the guys to come around, because this guy has got one of his best runs going of the season, and we are going to have to get you some airtime because you have earned this one, my friend. Good run going so far.
Well, I'll tell you what, the crew's earned this. What can you say about this Valvoline instant oil change bunch? We're real good. We're real good. I think we had some brake problems right there about halfway through, lost the pedal. The guys calmed me down. We got our brakes back. I think we'll be in pretty good shape. It's awful good to be back home here in Martinsville, but we're looking forward to the rest of the race.
All right, well, we're going to let you guys get back to work. We're going to make our way back down towards Jack Sprague. I'll let the camera go one direction. I'll go the other so we don't interrupt the crew. Looks like that they are working on brakes and some things with Sprague's crew, and they've got a ton of work going on here as they are up underneath the front end there, and you can see the guys are frank. We'll just listen in for a second. Well, it looks like they're going to get some duct tape. They are obviously having some trouble. So that's the damage, yes, from the earlier incident that you guys have pointed out so well. So we're going to let those guys do their thing. We'll move on down, and in fact, let me duck underneath here, and we'll catch up with Corky as he's all the way down at the other end, and we'll check in with Mike Bliss. Now, Bliss's team, I talked to Barry Dotson, and Barry said that they were not going to make any major changes on this truck because they were extremely happy. Now, I don't know if they've been doing anything, but so far, let's listen in.
Hold it right here.
Okay, he's trying to get this motor cooled down and get the brakes cooled off as well. You can see that's the biggest problem they have right now, guys. They are trying to get this baby cooled off. Now, one other guy that we want to check in with is going to be Rick Corelli, because this is another team that has got a great run going. Corelli right now running in 4th position. And as far as their changes, they are going to make an air pressure adjustment on the right rear, take it up just a tick. Other than that, it looks like they're looking underneath, checking the brakes. And fellas, that's your update so far.
All right, good hustle down there, Marty. Corelli quietly slipping into 4th spot. And the other guy who's done a good job without a whole lot of airtime is Bobby Hamilton, who's inside the top 10, currently running in 8th. Now you're about ready to crank them up and get them back out, and they'll be cranking them up at Fontana for the IndyCar race tomorrow, RPM today. We'll be live at the scene with Reese and the crew, so be sure and check that out. Then 11:30 tomorrow morning. On the grid is at 7:30, and the race itself is at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Pacific. The Marlboro 500 wrapping up the kart season at Fontana, California. We'll be right back. We're back at Martinsville, Virginia. Your Napa Field summary shows Rich Bickle sitting comfortably out front, and my expert analysts Kyle Petty and Benny Parsons think that Bickle looks pretty doggone good here as he leads Ernie Irvin and Bliss and the rest. Take you on back through the rest of the field, including the guys who have had trouble. Keselowski with a major blow-up, Wallace with a mechanical, Crawford with a crash, among those who have retired. And the big story here is Ron Hornaday with a rear-end gear failure that has knocked him 35 laps off the pace. Ready to start the second half. There's Bickle coming down to take the green, and we're back underway at Martinsville.
And Joe Ruttman once again trying to get a lap back. And Ernie Irvin's got the 16 truck on the inside. He's able to get by, but still Ruttman trying to cannot stay in front of 17.
Now Bliss will try to deal with Rutman. Rutman had a miss in the engine early on. 4th-ranked driver in the series. I assume they were able to clear that up at halftime, Marty?
Well, if you remember, he did get his lap back, and then the miss reappeared. So then when they brought him in, they changed the plug wires, and they think they've got it finally solved.
However, on that restart, he was not able to capitalize as he did on the last restart of the first half to get back on the tail end of the lead lap. Now, Ernie Irvin will work to the outside of Rutman, and Mike Bliss will move up and challenge him next. Bliss running 3rd. Hornaday is 5th in this line, but as we said, many laps down, and that is not certain doom, but certainly a huge hit in terms of his championship standings. Dodge race recap shows Bickle leading the way. He's led 77 of the 125 laps. Irvin had led up until then. 4 cautions, 26 laps, a good bit cleaner race than we saw here a year ago when we racked up 70 laps of caution. So inevitable contact at Martinsville, but generally these guys have done a pretty good job.
Got a couple of laps leaders. Rich Bickle and Ernie Irvin. They're the only 2 trucks that have led, only 2 drivers that have led today. A couple of drivers off the racetrack working on their vehicles, Bob Keselowski and Mike Wallace. They also have several trucks that's out of the race. B.A. Wilson, John Wood, Johnny Benson, Michael Walton, and Philip Morris.
And we're watching the 3 truck of Jay Sauter, who didn't qualify well, but has now moved into 13th spot. They are reporting some smoke, perhaps from a tire rubbing on the number 3 truck. So I'm sitting here watching this race and listening to these experts talk about how they burn the brakes off the things, and they come in for a 5-minute break, and Dummy here is saying, well, how come nobody changed the brake pads? Fortunately, I have these guys here, and I can ask that question. How come nobody changed the brake pads? Look at those things burning up out there. Looks stupid, guys.
And like we were talking, they don't wear the brake pads out. In a 200-lap race or 250-lap race, it's not that they're going to wear the brake pads out. When somebody says, I lost my brakes, what he means is he boiled his fluid. If they could take that fluid out and put new fluid in, then they would be better off.
And that's not something I guess you can do in a 5-minute break, because that would take longer.
No, you can't. As a matter of fact, they use brake circulators on these things so that as the drivers hit the pedal, the fluid circulates all through the system, recirculating, trying to get the cooler fluid into the calipers, because caliper is right.
Leaders running 21:41.
So, Marty, did they pretty much get that straight up here? These guys earning their expert money today?
Hey, I was wondering, you don't even need to see this. I mean, this is what the brake pad actually looks like. You can see how thick it is. In fact, these are designed to go the 500 laps tomorrow. And you're right, guys. It's simply the boiling fluid, and I'm not going to hold that. I don't care how much you pay me.
Ladies and gentlemen, ESPN has been coming to Martinsville since, what, 1981? You can't believe how hard it is to find something new to say about brakes every time we come here, because they're always the story. Pretty good scrap right here. Stacy Compton up on the outside. He's got Jimmy Hensley and Jack Sprague to deal with. This is 5th, 6th, and 7th, and it's tight.
Sprague just took over the 5th spot from Stacy Compton. Stacy's trying to drive away from Jimmy Hensley, but Hensley has that preferred position on the inside. I don't think Stacy can hold it back.
Clear.
And there's a spotter telling Jimmy Hensley, you're clear. You can grip back out against the outside retaining wall.
So give Sprague 5th spot, Hensley 6th, and drop Compton back to 6th position. Mike Bliss runs right up to the tailgate to make sure you can read the sponsor name on the back of Ernie Irvin's truck.
And he's been doing this every lap since the restart.
Bliss has been a little frustrated by the way things have gone this year. He won a race in his inaugural truck season 2 years ago, won 2 races last year. Hasn't been able to find his way to victory lane this year. Still consistent in points, 5th ranked, but out of the hunt for the championship, some 350 back. Really wants to win a race. That was Barry Dodson, his crew chief. You saw directing the cooling activities there on pit road, and he's been one of the real keys to Bliss's success. They work their way around the outside of Ernie Cope to put him another lap down. 139 in the book as Bickle shows the way at Martinsville. 155 laps into the Haynes 250. What's different about this picture? Rich Bickle in the 17 still leads, but Mike Bliss has moved into second spot, working his way around Ernie Irvin after many laps of trying, and now is just one position away from the lead. And there's the gap back to Irvin, who is clearly backing up. He has been caught by Rick Pirelli and Jack Sprague in the 24, who is ever so slowly working his way up the ladder. And look how Sprague pulls down a lane on the straightaway. He's been doing that, I guess, basically since the restart. What's going on there, guys? Any ideas?
Looks like he's trying to get air to something, wouldn't you think, Kyle? Either the engine or the brakes or something.
Yeah, we saw him during the break, you know, working on the front end where he did have the front end damage. And it's hard to tell whether he's closed off a brake duct or whether some of the aluminum in the ductwork itself is flopping in there and making the engine temperature. But most of the time when you see somebody dive to the inside, you know, a third of the way down the straightaway, they're trying to get some air induction back into their motor or into the brake duct somewhere.
And so Sprague continues working on another top 5, and he does so with a substantial advantage now in terms of the championship points over the defending series champ Ron Hornaday, who has now taken his truck back to the garage area. I would suspect probably permanently. He has become a spectator. Marty?
Yeah, we're down here with Ron Hornaday, and I don't have to remind you this. Last year when you won the championship, you finished every race. This is your 4th DNF, and the same problem with the rear end. Does this ruin and end your chances for the championship chase to repeat?
Well, you don't need to remind me, but that's the way our year's been. Win a couple races, and it just makes you more humble. I mean, you can't stop what's happening. We ended up losing a rear end pump belt. We put it back together, put another rear end in it, did it again. So we're just trying to save the truck, head to California, get as many points as we can. Nothing we do, we got a truck in one piece, and that's all you can ask for coming out of Martinsville.
Guys, I can't give you the update on the 24. They say everything's okay, no major problem there.
He just likes getting out of line there in terms of Sprague's unusual line here. Don't I remember Kyle Petty saying when Hornaday burned up that first gear that the problem with that is that when you try to fix it, there's always a bunch of junk in there and you end up blowing up a second one?
And that's the problem, because when the gear gets that hot, when a gear gets hot enough to flame up on its own, where it's just the grease and the metal itself flaming up on its own, then it burns out the inner seals, it burns out a lot of stuff, and you can't clean it out. And, you know, and the reason I do say that, I spoke from experience. I've burned 3 or 4 of them out up here in a 500-mile race, man, just to get points.
Been there, done that. This is a pretty good little scrap. Up on the outside, 99 truck abound almost got to the wall a moment ago as Jay Sauter worked on him on the inside. Sauter continuing a march to the front. That's how this all started.
Ooh. Brian Reffner, the 66, makes contact with the 99. Away he goes. There we see David Green, the 37. Butch Miller, the 20. Randy Toles, the 61. And Jay Sauter. All these trucks except the 99 battling for position.
Chuck had to do a serious bit of steering to stay out of trouble right there. That's Rick Crawford, who came in second in the Cintas Rookie of the Year points that you see at the beat-up number 14 behind him. He rear-ended Johnny Benson in the first half after Benson hit the wall. So, as we have indicated a couple of times, in terms of guys in the point standings, this has been a tough afternoon.
Battle for position, that 7th spot. Stacy Compton, 86, has it. Bobby Hamilton takes it away.
We haven't talked much about Bobby today. He sat on the pole for this race a year ago and has quietly worked his way to 7th spot here this afternoon with that pass on Compton. The guy who drives Richard Petty's Winston Cup car will now set off in pursuit of the guy who drives Richard Petty's truck as Hensley sits in 6th. There's your top 5 as we take you back through the Napa Field summary and mark the starting positions on the right in parentheses and current running position. Butch Miller has been steady and is moving upward to 9th. Hamilton is driving away there, obviously a good bit better for the moment than Compton. First of the trucks a lap down is Ruttman, and he's been a lap down since very early on. The second green flag run, he lost that lap to a misfire. Now the truck is fixed, but he has not been able to get the lap back.
There we see the 17 truck, the leader of the race, Rich Bickle. He closes in on the back of Tony Roper, 31. Mike Bliss, we see Bliss was right on his bumper a few laps ago, has lost a few car lengths to the 17 truck.
You guys called it. Bliss is struggling because Bickle is really, really good.
And when they come off the corner, they got to go right up against the outside retaining wall. The closer you can get, the better off you are. Watch as the 3 truck comes off. Jay Sauter, but Jay not quite that close.
Is that what you call a point of diminishing return when it starts to go straight?
Exactly. If he'd have been about 3 inches farther away from the wall, he'd been perfect.
Well, you use every bit of the racetrack if you want to win the Haynes 250. We'll take a commercial break, come back and see if Bickle can hang on and do just that. We're back with the Haynes 250 at Martinsville. Ooh, there was a near miss for Andy Houston as he darts by a slower truck and then goes up and gives Chuck Bound a little tap. And this is all happening right in company with the leader, number 17, Bickle, trying to get around the outside and get clear of these guys before the wreck instead of afterwards. And here comes Grubb on the outside. This is all for position. The 65 truck of Houston in 14th spot, and Grubb will go by him now to take over that position as they all get lapped by Rich Bickle.
And now we see the 2 of Mike Bliss coming in there.
Goofy.
That was Jamie Skinner a moment ago that the 65 of Houston almost ran in the back of, and his truck slowed off turn 4 and went to the biscuit.
Yeah, and Jamie had done a tremendous job. I mean, he'd run 12th and 13th. That's what we were just discussing. Jamie and Houston and the Grubb boy, all of them are late model stock car standouts, and they have just done a tremendous job today, and something breaks on Skinner's truck.
We mentioned that the number 65 truck of Andy Houston Andy is involved in the race for the Hickory, North Carolina Track Championship. There comes Andy in the red and orange truck. The guy he's racing for the title is his brother Marty, and Marty is here today working on Andy's truck. So they made a deal. They're going to leave the track together. They're going to drive to Hickory tonight for the last race to decide the championship together so that they both get there at the same time and have an equal opportunity to win the title. So we wish them well. Now to find out what's up with Jamie Skinner, let's go to Marty.
Well, they are working on this truck, and the word from the crew is that it is probably a ring gear. The motor is off. They're taking a look. Jamie's still in the cockpit, but they're not moving too fast, guys.
Nonetheless, a good run today for the son of the 2-time series champion.
That fellow in the blue shirt there is Tex Powell. Tex Racing that builds the gears, transmissions.
As we watch the trucks, we got a heck of a battle for the World Championship. The Grand Prix of Luxembourg is tomorrow morning at 7:40 a.m. Michael Schumacher leading Jacques Villeneuve by just a point. The race at the famous Nürburgring in Germany. We could do this a couple of ways. We could have Kyle explain why the Grand Prix of Luxembourg is in Germany, or we could have you send in your guess as to the explanation for that to Benny Parsons, and if you get it right, Benny will buy you a Wiener Schnitzel. The Grand Prix of Luxembourg tomorrow morning in Germany. Be sure and watch it at 7:40 a.m. A little shuffle at the tail end of the top 15 there as Grubb moves up to 13th spot, drops Houston back to 14th, 15th position now the property of David Green. And up front, Ehrman continuing to circulate in second spot, but third spot rather, as Rick Corelli tries to close in on him.
There we see David Green, the 37th. Looks like he's having brake problems again. He had some problems earlier, losing the pedal. And there is Corelli, the 4th place truck, and Sprague, the 5th place truck.
You talk about the brake problems. One thing that did happen in the first half of the race is the cautions were spaced. They'd run 40 laps and there'd be a few laps and they could cool down.
Right now, they'll try to reel in Sprague in this last
Against the wall on the
races of
back
the season.
stretch, the caution's out, caution's out.
And the Grubb
has crashed.
Wayne Grubb has hit the wall. We see the damage to the right front. We see the tire is flat. The truck is dragging the surface, so the caution is out.
Link belt is heavy equipment. His dad sells that and uses the money to sponsor both the boys' trucks. Little brother didn't make it in today. We'll take a break and be right back. Back in Martinsville at the tail end of a caution for Virginian Wayne Grubb, who hit the wall over in turn 2.
He comes off the corner and just, there's Wayne as he comes off the corner, and all of a sudden, bam! I don't know if the truck lost air in the right front tire or just pushed into the wall.
Let's go to Marty quickly.
I asked Barry Dotson, what do you have left? He says, yeah, we're both saving brakes. I said, when are you going to go? He says, soon, real soon. Keep an eye on us.
Well, it's 250 laps, so you can do the arithmetic. He's going to have to go pretty quick. That's Mike Bliss we're talking about, who sits in second, but second more than he would like this year. He has 3 runner-up finishes in 97, Homestead early, Colorado, and Watkins Glen. Out of that group, I would say Ernie Irvin and Kelly Denton using the most of the road, getting right up against the wall, as Benny indicated, the fast way around here.
Ernie Irvin, we heard Marty say in the pit stop on the break that they put a rubber in the right rear spring. Well, folks, that wasn't nearly enough, because as he comes off the corner, he is just plowing straight toward the wall. Watch a 28 car truck as he comes off, when he goes in, and now he starts accelerating off, and it just goes directly toward the wall. He has to back off to make it turn away from the wall. That's what we're talking about when we say pushing. The faster he tries to go, the slower he goes.
Yeah, he's probably fought that fight a lot of laps in a Winston Cup car, and he's putting that experience to good use right now to keep that number 28 out of the wall. And doing a decent job here. If anything, he may be closing up a little bit on the lead.
40.
Bickle has had a very, very good truck all afternoon. They didn't do much to it on the break. He had a big smile on his face. Now Rich is just sitting there knocking off the laps and hoping to hang on and win this thing.
You heard that spotter or the crew chief a moment ago say 40.
30.
30. That's 21:30, 21.30 seconds to tell the driver when he goes by. So if he changes his line and he hears 20, he knows that that line was the better line. He needs to go back and try to duplicate that last lap. Kyle, do you have your crew chief or someone tell you the times?
Every lap, and you get in a rhythm, and you know how it is. Once you get into racing, you get into a rhythm of it, and if they give you your lap times at the same place on the racetrack every time, then you know whether you had a good corner. And you're right there running, and the tires are getting hot and slick, and you got a clear racetrack, and you're trying to bust off perfect corners every time, and all of a sudden you slow up a half second, then you know you're wrong. You might need to change your groove, and that's why you see guys run racetracks, and they're constantly changing their grooves because they're constantly looking for that perfect place. It's not maybe what the car feels like, but it's what's the fastest way around the racetrack.
The stopwatch is always the ultimate judge in the racing business. We're following it back through the field. You've seen Sprague in 5th, Hensley in 6th. This is Bobby Hamilton running a consistent 7th here today. Rutman a lap down. There is your 8th place driver, number 86, Stacy Compton, who has slipped a bit. He was very happy at the halfway break, has lost a couple of positions since, and is in danger of losing another one to number 20 of Butch Miller. Miller, the runner-up here a year ago, has battled his way inside the top 10. And Randy Tolsma in that yellow Dole truck has moved forward nicely. He started in the 20th spot and is now inside the top 10. Here's your 10th place truck right now.
He's being pursued strongly by that 3-car, the Goodwrench truck of Jay Sauter. That is 10th and 11th. And there was Kenny Irwin Jr., their bestest truck. He is currently in the 12th spot. That is all the trucks on the lead lap.
And again, to remind you, Sauter started 33rd with a provisional. Half a lap in front of those guys is your leader, Rich Bickle, as we pass the 200 lap mark here at Martinsville Speedway on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. It's a Winston Cup weekend at Martinsville. We'll bring you the delayed telecast of Happy Hour just past midnight Eastern Time. That'll be 12:30 a.m. Eastern for Happy Hour, which will actually take place at the end of the afternoon here. And then tomorrow, RPM today at 11:30 in the morning, followed by NASCAR today at noon, the pre-race show. And our coverage of the Haynes 500 will start at 12:40 Eastern Time. All of that on ESPN2 except the big race, which will be on the big network. We do expect you to watch all of this because it'll be exciting.
And RPM today on 7 days a week, although Monday through Friday it's RPM tonight, 7 o'clock with John Kernan.
And you're watching the leaders work their way through traffic. Here is the leader. This is Rich Bickle, who has a second now on the second place man, Mike Bliss. There's Bliss in the blue as he comes up to put a lap on Barry Bodine, who has been consistent and stayed out of trouble and is 18th, 3 laps down. Yes, it is Jeff's son.
See, Mike Wallace is back in the race in the Purelator truck, and while we're looking at that Purelator truck, the white one right in the middle, the fellow that was the first guy to lead the Purelator racing program back in the early 70s, Whit Collins, passed away this Monday in Tampa, Florida. So Jerry and the girls have condolences.
It's a guy who ranks among the pioneers in this business. You're looking at interval among the positions up there in the upper left, and the indication is that Mike Bliss is reeling in the leader.
And that time he was the fastest car. He was faster than the leader. You see, Corelli was the second fastest and Sprague third fastest. And Stacy Compton's troubles continue as he loses another spot. He's now back to 10th. The truck is just plowing off the corner, cannot get the turn.
And with that loss of position, Jay Sauter moves up inside the top 10, having come from 33rd on the grid. There's Mike Bliss. This time, his lap time should drop with a clear racetrack now that he's out of the lap traffic. Question remains whether or not he'll be able to turn that into a reduction in the interval to the leader. The fact is he did not, because the leader was also clear of traffic and actually pulled him by 0.4 of a second that lap.
Kenny Irwin has gained another spot as he's got by Randy Tolsma. Moves himself into the 11th spot.
Two graduates of ESPN Thunder right there. Kenny Irwin Jr. and Randy Tolsma, both coming out of the midget Silver Crown ranks, moving up into trucks. Irwin, of course, got the call from Robert Yates to go Winston Cup racing and sat on the outside pole of Richmond. A fluke, obviously, because he was only third.
Yeah.
For the big race tomorrow. He's pretty impressive. Now Bliss is chiseling away at it. He dropped back to a second and change. Now he's back to about 8/10 behind the leader. He continues to try to reel in Rich Bickle and make a finish out of this.
We still continue to watch the battle for 10th spot. There we see Bickle going by the Chuck Bound car. This ought to work out just about right for the two of Bliss, because Bound ought to go through the corner. As he get off the corner, move over, let him go by. Oops, didn't work too good.
Got a good drive off the corner that time, and Bliss didn't particularly. So now he's backed up behind him, and that'll be reflected, I'm sure, in the end of the time next time by. More on Mike Bliss's situation from trackside. Marty?
Yeah, with the heat generated down here, Bliss is reporting in that it's tight in the middle, so he's had to change his line. So that's why you're seeing him drive a little bit differently.
This is all happening 2 1/4 seconds in front of Ernie Irvin, who looked like a potential winner. That's 2 1/4 to the leader. You get a glimpse of Ernie there, maybe 20 yards of racetrack, and Chuck Bound behind the number 2. They work their way by Brad Teague. Traffic, always an issue on a tight racetrack like Martinsville. An issue today with 36 entries, and even more so tomorrow with the Cup cars and a full field of 42.
And Mike Bliss, after they got through the traffic, is now 1 1/4 seconds behind. Right along with Mike Bliss. That's Rick Crawford that he's going by on the inside. Rick had some tough luck earlier on.
You can see his feet that last time. He tapped the brake about halfway down the straightaway just to make sure he still had a little bit of pedal. So you know he's running as hard as he can, and he's checking that pedal all the time.
The unknown in this, of course, is the extent to which Bickle is running flat out. Obviously, his spotter is keeping him abreast of the gap back to Bliss. And there would be reason to think that he might have a little left in hand if he needs it, if Bliss gets up there and is ready to make a challenge. Compton is again under pressure, and this is for the last spot in the top 10. Kenny Irwin Jr. looking inside, hoping to move Stacy out of the way and crack the top 10. He's not spent a lot of time in the top 10 since he won the race at Texas. 14th or worse in 9 out of 10 races after that victory in Texas. Stacy, get out of the way. Let me by here.
And by he'll go.
I think you called it, Benny. As soon as that Robert Yates deal became a priority for Kenny Irwin, his truck performances.
And we've got a caution flag coming out. There's a truck stall down in turn 4. Tony Raines. And the caution flag is out. Wow, we got a shootout now. It's going to be about 15 laps to go.
Forget all that interval talk. It is a moot point now. With 232 laps complete, we're under caution at Martinsville Speedway. We'll be back to shoot it out in a moment. Martinsville Speedway, this is the blueprint for short tracks nationwide. The track celebrating its 50th anniversary, and we'll honor it tomorrow with a 50th anniversary special at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Clear low, hand to check up behind you. All clear all around.
Be the feature. Yes, it's going to be good. We're back under green for the shootout here. Lap 236 going for 250. Bickle gets a good jump. All the lap trucks down on the inside. Bliss made contact with a concrete coming out of turn 2 in his effort to try to run down Bickle. Bliss pushed out, whacked the wall.
If he didn't hit the wall, he came awfully close to it. As Ernie Irving is pressuring him, he's trying to get alongside. And let's see if Bliss touches the wall.
Yeah, I'd say so.
He didn't touch it, he hit it.
Yeah. And Ernie just gave him a little tap in the back there to remind him there's more than one way to get hit at Martinsville. Ernie wants that spot back.
Ernie's like a shark now. He knows he's got into the wall, and he knows he's got a little damage there, and he's smelling blood.
Irvin started second, slipped to third, and Bliss got by him. Now wants that second position back. Behind them, Corelli in hot pursuit, sitting in fourth position, but he's got a lapper between him and Ernie Irvin. This is the fight for position. Bickle has drawn away from these guys with what is clearly the strongest truck on the racetrack.
Bliss is hanging pretty tough with that bent up truck, and we know that when he hit the wall over there, that he had to knock the towing out just a little bit.
Well, plus there's got to be a reason why he hit the wall in the first place. I mean, the thing has to be pushing pretty bad to get him in that situation to begin with. So that's two strikes, and he's still managing to keep Ernie behind him.
But you can see Bliss drive up off the corner. Bliss drives a straighter line up off the corner than Ernie's able to. I think it's just like Benny mentioned earlier, that Ernie's car's got a little bit of a push in it, and it pushes out next to the wall, and he has to check up just a little bit.
Gets a bunch of it coming back into the corner. There you go. There's exactly what these guys are talking about. Now, at some point, does Ernie say, okay, I'm third, I'll settle for that, or do you keep hammering at it?
I think right now he's saying, well, if I can finish third, I'll be doing real good with this truck handling the way it is.
Only 8 to go. This is your top 10 running order. Some impressive performances in there in terms of passing people on a racetrack where that is not always easy to do. Number 20, Butch Miller, having started an 18th spot. Sauter 33rd.
There's 4th and 5th. Corelli, the 6th truck. 24th, Sprague. Corelli sponsored by the Remax. That's the Realty people. And obviously, Quicker State, the 24 truck sponsor.
Here's a stat for you. 2 previous races on this racetrack. Rick Corelli finished 29th in both of them. So 4th today, it feels like winning.
Well, this would be a good climb.
And all things considered, Sprague is probably not nearly as unhappy as he might otherwise have been. With another top 5, you saw him make the curve down on the inside going into turn 1. They have battled that truck a bit all weekend, but given what happened to Hornaday, one of the title contenders virtually eliminated with the burn-up rear end gear. That's the good news. Now, the bad news is the guy who came in 95 points behind him in the championship standings, Rich Bickle, is en route to victory. 5 to go. So ultimately the championship battle tightens up a little bit, and we got trouble. No caution flag for Rick Crawford, who spun at turn 1. No, he didn't do all that damage just then. If you just joined us, he rear-ended Johnny Benson big time in the first half, and he's going to try to spin her out again as Crawford battles with the remains of his truck to salvage whatever Cintas Rookie of the Year points he can.
And we come down for 3 laps to go. Ernie Irvin has said, okay, 3 laps to go. I think I'm going to try a little bit harder now.
I'm going to give this one more shot.
I think you asked a minute ago whether Ernie was going to just settle back in and take third. I think this answers the question
right there.
Is this the
answer right here? Clunk. Hang on, Bliss. You're almost there.
2 laps to go. And Corelli and Sprague get together.
That's going to bring the caution.
And the right front is flat on Corelli's truck, and he was running in the third. And there's a look at the points leader's truck.
The championship leader clobbers the wall. Very fortunate that this has come so late in the race, just a couple of laps to the finish. He'll be able to hang on and finish no worse than 11th, I would think. 11 trucks left on the lead lap.
Now these races, we see the left rear is flat, the right front is flat on Corelli's truck. A lot of damage to that truck. These truck races do not end on the caution flag. We'll see at least 2 laps of green flag racing. Now Corelli.
Probably get a view of this perhaps from the onboard camera of Hensley. Wow.
And Corelli did the same thing, looked like did the same thing that the Grubb kid did in the Ford truck. Just came off the corner. And look at the 24 truck is coming in. He'll lose spots to all trucks in the lead lap. He'll go back to 10th spot.
Wonder if they called him in to,
I don't know,
to get that hood down. That was obviously the concern. Well, that and the fact that he couldn't see. Take your pick. No contact between the two. Corelli just lost it. We heard a little radio traffic speculation that he might have cut a tire, went up, clobbered the wall, and Sprague had nowhere to go. We'll be right back. The field for the Haynes 250 will get the green flag this time by. We're 253 laps in. This will be the next to last lap. There's the green flag. Next time will be white. Here comes Ernie Irvin on the inside to try to take second place away from Mike Bliss. And they're door-to-door out onto the backstretch. Bickle pulls away. Hensley to decide which way to go. Says, I like Ernie's chances. And glues it to the bottom as they come to the white flag.
Almost contact between the 28 and the 2. White flag is in the air. Next time by. Looks like Bickle's going to win this thing. It looks like Ernie Irvin will take over second. Hensley could not follow.
Rubbing, beating, banging down the backstretch. Now they come off the final corner. Bickle will win his 3rd truck race of the year. 2nd to Irvin, 3rd to Bliss, 4th to Hensley, and into the top 5 goes Hamilton as the checkered flag falls on Rich Bickle and the die-hard crew celebrate. In the final caution, Jack Sprague was penalized for too many men over the wall. He will slip to the last truck on the lead lap and finish in 10th spot. The point leader losing ground today to the race winner, Rich Bickle, and an exciting and dramatic finish to the Haynes 250 here at Martinsville. The celebratory donut on the front straightaway. Bickle made the prediction yesterday. He said, we've struggled the last half dozen races. We're going to be very good for the next half dozen. We still want that championship. Last year's race was 255. This year was one better. 256 laps it took to decide it. But I think they could have run around here all day, guys, and nobody would have caught this guy. The Haynes 250 here on ESPN. An exciting afternoon of Speed World Truck Racing. Brought to you by Daytona, USA. At Daytona International Speedway, it is the ultimate motorsports attraction. And by the new Dodge. It's about change. Well, Bickle led this baby for 204 of 256 laps, including the lap that mattered most. He started from the pole, wins from the pole for the 3rd time this year. There's the rest of your finish order. It's the 14th top 5 and 16th top 10 of the season. And that is why Rich Bickle is very much in contention for the championship. Also, laps completed are critical. He's run 39.90 out of 40.13, and he is keeping the pressure on Jack Sprague in terms of the battle for this championship. A lot to celebrate here for Rich Bickle at Martinsville as he prepares to climb out and meet our Marty Reed and tell us all about it. You're getting wet, Reed.
Wet ain't the word for it down here. Well, we could have used the shower. Hey, Rich, turn around here. Look, Darrell Waltrip, a very happy owner. Guys, we're running long on time. Do you realize you tied a record? Mike Skinner held the season mark for 3 poles, 3 wins from those poles. You just tied him, and you guys are back in this.
Tell you what, you know, after all these 6 weeks of getting burned up, broke up, and cut up, this is the best remedy, you know.
Oh, yeah, man. Way to go, Rich. I told him, don't hurt yourself, buddy. Don't hurt my driver, whatever you do. Paul, come on in here. Paul Bafco, Sears.
Hey.
No, you got it.
Paul from Sears said, well, if you win today, we'll let you go again next week. So the pressure was on me. But I'd like to say hi to everybody back up there at Sears and all employees and everybody involved. And say hi to my dad and all the guys back in Edgewood. And I'll tell you what. You know, we've had a little bit of problem. We come back. We find out what was wrong with this truck. We're going to kick some butt.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, I can say one thing. Maybe you want to have this appendectomy more often. I mean, these guys have one and they win a race. David, it's all yours.
Enough of that.
Darrell Waltrip will get set for happy hour. So too Kyle Petty. In terms of the championship battle, just 49 now separate Sprague and Bickle. This baby tightens up heading into the final 5 races of the year. The road to Indy is up next on ESPN. Stay tuned for that. Our thanks to Benny Parsons and Kyle Petty, as always, for an excellent job of analysis. And our congratulations to Rich Bickle, who with this 3rd victory of the 1997 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series battle closes in on a possible championship. I'm Dave Despain. So long, everybody.